lights go out, the stories begin. Night stories. Your nightmares become real.
The glow of my laptop screen was the only light in my room, casting harsh shadows across the walls. I was sprawled on my bed, scrolling through forums, chasing the kind of boredom that makes you reckless. High school was a drag, my friends were busy, and I'd already binged every show worth watching. That's when I remembered the dark web. I'd heard about it in whispers at school. Some kid bragging about finding weird stuff, like black market deals or hacked files. It sounded like a thrill, something to kill the monotony. So, I downloaded Tor a few weeks back, fumbled through some sketchy links, and mostly found dead ends or boring marketplaces. Tonight, though, I was restless, itching for something to jolt me out of my haze. I clicked through a forum I'd bookmarked, one buried deep in a thread labeled Hidden Streams. Most of the links were broken or led to scams, but one caught my eye. Red Room, pending viewer votes. The name alone sent a prickle down my spine. I'd heard of Red Rooms before. Urban legends about live torture streams where sickos paid to watch people suffer. Everyone said they were fake, just creepypasta nonsense to scare gullible kids like me. Still, my curiosity gnawed at me. I hesitated, my mouse hovering over the link. What if it was real? What if it wasn't? Either way, I wanted to know. I clicked. The page loaded slowly, a black screen with a grainy video feed flickering to life. The room in the stream was dim, lit by a single bare bulb swinging from a cord. Concrete walls, stained and cracked, framed the scene. In the center, tied to a metal chair, was a person. Their face was hidden by a burlap sack, but their body was slumped, wrists and ankles bound with thick rope. A rusty table nearby held tools, knives, pliers, a hammer, and something that looked like a blowtorch. My stomach churned, but I couldn't look away. It had to be staged. No way this was real. The production value was too low, too gritty, like a cheap horror movie. A chat window popped up beside the video. Messages scrolled fast, usernames in garbled strings of letters and numbers. "Cut the fingers first," one read. "Burn the soles of their feet," said another. My heart thudded. The comments were casual, like people debating pizza toppings. At the bottom of the screen, a poll blinked. What happens next? The options were grotesque. Slice the skin, break a bone, pull a tooth. A counter showed, viewer votes, 237. I stared, my mouth dry. 237 people were watching this, voting on this? I told myself it was fake. Actors, fake blood, some twisted art project. But the way the person in the chair twitched, the way their chest heaved under the sack, it looked too real. I leaned closer, my face inches from the screen, trying to spot a flaw, a glitch, anything to prove it was a hoax. Then a new message appeared in the chat. New viewer detected. Welcome, guest 487. My breath caught. That was me. How did they know I was watching? I hadn't logged in, hadn't entered any info. My Tor browser was supposed to keep me anonymous. The poll timer ticked down. 10 seconds left. The votes tallied up, and Slice the Skin won with 112 votes. My eyes flicked back to the video. A figure stepped into frame, their face obscured by a black hood. They picked up a scalpel from the table, the blade glinting under the bulb. The person in the chair whimpered, a muffled sound through the sack. The hooded figure grabbed their arm, pinning it to the chair's armrest. The scalpel pressed against the skin, and a thin red line appeared, blood welling up in beads. The victim screamed, a raw animal sound that made my skin crawl. The camera zoomed in, catching every detail, the way the blood trickled down their arm, pooling on the concrete floor, the way their body shook against the ropes. I slammed my laptop shut. My heart was pounding, my hands clammy. Fake or not, that was too much. I sat there, staring at the closed laptop, trying to shake the image of that blood, that scream. It wasn't real. It couldn't be. I got up, paced my room, turned on every light. The normalcy of my posters, my messy desk, felt wrong after what I'd just seen. I told myself to forget it, to go to bed, to laugh it off as some sick prank. Then I noticed it. The green light on my webcam was on. I froze. My webcam wasn't supposed to be active. I hadn't opened any apps, hadn't clicked anything that would turn it on. I leaned closer, my reflection faintly visible in the dark lens. "No way," I whispered, my voice shaky. I opened my laptop again, half expecting that site to still be there, but the browser was closed. I checked my system settings. Nothing was running. I unplugged the webcam, yanking the cord out with a jerk. The light stayed on. My phone buzzed on my desk. I jumped, my nerves frayed. It was a text from an unknown number. My hands shook as I opened it. "Your vote is next." I dropped the phone like it burned me. This wasn't happening. It was a coincidence, some spam bot that got my number. I turned off my phone, unplugged my laptop, and crawled into bed, pulling the covers over my head like a kid scared of the dark. But sleep wouldn't come. Every creak of the house, every rustle outside my window, made me flinch. I kept seeing that scalpel, that blood, hearing that scream. And the words, "Your vote is next." Morning came, gray and heavy. I barely slept, my eyes gritty, my head pounding. I told myself it was over, just a bad night. I plugged my phone back in, ignoring the text, and avoided my laptop. School was a blur. Teachers droning, friends laughing, everything feeling distant, like I was underwater. All I could think about was that stream. Was it still going? Was that person still alive? I pushed it down, tried to focus, but it clung to me like damp rot. When I got home, I couldn't resist. I had to know. I powered up my laptop, re-downloaded Tor, and found the forum again. The link was still there. Red Room pending viewer votes. My hands hovered over the keyboard. Don't do it, I thought. Just walk away, but I clicked anyway. The stream loaded. Same room, same chair, same person, or maybe a different one. The sack was still over their head, but their shirt was torn now, blood stains spreading across their chest. The table of tools was messier, some instruments slick with red. The chat was alive, buzzing with new suggestions, each more twisted than the last. Break the kneecap. Peel the skin off their back. The poll was up again, with new options, each one making my stomach lurch. Viewer count, 312. I didn't want to watch, but I couldn't stop. The hooded figure appeared again, this time holding a hammer. The poll results flashed. Break a bone. The figure raised the hammer, and the victim thrashed, their muffled screams filling the feed. The hammer came down on their hand, and I heard the crack, saw the fingers twist at wrong angles. Blood splattered, and the screams turned to sobs, high and broken. I gagged, bile rising in my throat, but my eyes were glued to the screen. The chat exploded with cheers, emojis, and demands for more. Then a new message popped up. Guest 487, cast your vote. My blood ran cold. I hadn't touched the keyboard, hadn't interacted at all. The poll options blinked at me, daring me to choose. I tried to close the tab, but it wouldn't budge. The browser froze, the video looping the moment of the hammer's impact, the sound of that crack playing over and over. My webcam light flicked on again. I slapped my hand over it, my heart racing. "Stop it," I whispered, to no one, to the screen, to whatever was watching. My phone buzzed again. Another text, "Choose or we choose for you." Attached was a photo, a grainy shot of my room taken from my webcam. My bed, my posters, my face staring back, pale and terrified. I yanked the laptop's power cord, killing the screen. My room was silent, but it felt wrong, like the air was thick with something watching. I tore the tape off my desk drawer, grabbed it, and plastered it over my webcam. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. I wanted to scream, to tell someone. But who would believe me? My parents? They'd think I was making it up, or worse, they'd see what I'd been looking at. The police? What would I even say? I saw a stream, maybe fake, maybe not, and now someone's texting me? Another buzz. I didn't want to look, but I had to. The new text read, "You can't leave. Vote by midnight or you're next." Below it, another image loaded slowly. It was the victim from the stream, the sack pulled off their face. Their eyes were wide, bloodshot, their mouth taped shut. But I recognized them. It was my neighbor, the quiet guy who lived 2 houses down. I'd seen him mowing his lawn last week. I don't know how long I sat there staring at my phone, my breath shallow. The room felt smaller, the walls closer. Somewhere out there, someone was watching me, waiting for my vote. I sat frozen, my phone trembling in my hands. The image of my neighbor's face burned into my mind. His eyes, wide with terror, stared through the screen, pleading for something I couldn't give. The tape over his mouth was peeling at one corner, crusted with dried blood. I knew him. Mark, I think his name was. He'd always been quiet, kept to himself, but I'd seen him enough to recognize that face. How was this possible? He lived 2 houses down. I'd heard his lawnmower just last week, seen him wave awkwardly when I passed by. Now he was there, on that stream, tied to a chair in some concrete hellhole. The text glared at me. Vote by midnight, or you're next. My chest tightened, each breath shallow and sharp. I wanted to throw my phone, smash it, run out of the house, but my legs felt like lead. The room was too quiet, the kind of quiet that hums with something waiting to break. I glanced at the window, half expecting to see a face pressed against the glass, but there was only darkness. My webcam, taped over, seemed to pulse with a life of its own, like it was still watching me. I forced myself to move, stumbling to the window to yank the curtain shut. My hands fumbled with the lock, double-checking it. I checked the door next, then every window in the house, my bare feet cold against the floor. The house felt wrong, like it wasn't mine anymore. Every shadow looked like a figure, every creak like a footstep. I kept my phone clutched tight. Too scared to let it go, too scared to look at it again. Back in my room, I stared at my unplugged laptop. I couldn't go back to that site. I wouldn't. But what if they knew I wasn't voting? What if they were already coming for me or for Mark? I pictured him in that chair, the hammer smashing his hand, the blood pooling on the floor. My stomach lurched, and I barely made it to the trash can before I vomited, the acid burning my throat. I wiped my mouth, shaking, and sank to the floor. I was just a kid. I didn't ask for this. I just clicked a stupid link. My phone buzzed again and I flinched, nearly dropping it. Another text. 9 hours left. Don't disappoint us, guest or 487. No image this time, just those words, cold and final. I wanted to cry, to scream, but all I could do was sit there, my back against the wall, hugging my knees. I thought about calling the police, but what would I say? I saw a stream on the dark web, and now I'm getting texts. They'd think I was pranking them. Or they'd ask questions I couldn't answer. And what if the people behind this knew? What if they were watching right now? I glanced at the clock, 9:47 p.m., 9 hours until midnight. I had to do something, but what? I couldn't vote. I wouldn't choose what happened to Mark. But if I didn't, what would they do to me? The photo of my room flashed in my mind, my bed, my posters, my own terrified face staring back. They'd been inside my webcam, inside my life. How? I didn't know, but it felt like they were everywhere, like they'd always been there, waiting for me to stumble into their trap. I grabbed a notebook from my desk, my hands unsteady, and started writing. I needed to think, to make sense of this. I wrote down everything: the forum, the stream, the room, the tools, the chat, the poll. I described Mark, the sack, the blood, the hooded figure. My pen shook, ink smudging, but I kept going. Like putting it on paper would make it less real. It didn't. It made it worse, every detail sharper, every scream louder in my head. I stopped at the texts. Your vote is next. Choose, or we choose for you. Vote by midnight, or you're next. I stared at the words, my handwriting jagged. Who were they? Hackers? Psychos? Some cult? The chat had hundreds of viewers, all throwing out ideas like it was a game. Were they all in on it, or were they like me, sucked in and trapped? I thought about the username, guest487. No login, no account, but they knew it was me. They had my phone number, my webcam, my room. They knew where I lived. I stood up, pacing, my notebook clutched to my chest. I had to warn Mark's family or check if he was even missing. But how? Knock on his door and say, "Hey, I saw your dad on a torture stream?" They'd think I was crazy. And if these people were watching, they'd know I was trying to interfere. I pictured Mark's house, dark and quiet, just 2 doors down. What if they were there right now, waiting for me to do something stupid? My phone buzzed again. I didn't want to look, but I couldn't stop myself. A new text. Curious? Check the stream. Guest 487 gets a special view. My blood ran cold. They wanted me back on the site. I glanced at my laptop, still unplugged, its black screen like a void. I told myself to ignore it, to delete the texts, to block the number. but my hands moved on their own, plugging the power cord back in, booting it up. I hated myself for it, but I had to know. What if Mark was still there? What if I could find a clue, something to stop this? Tor loaded slowly, the forum link still in my bookmarks. My heart pounded as I clicked Red Room, pending viewer votes. The stream flickered to life, the same concrete room, the same flickering bulb. Mark was still in the chair, his head slumped, the sack back over his face. His shirt was soaked with blood now, dark patches spreading across his chest and arms. The table of tools was slick, the scalpel and hammer joined by a pair of pliers crusted with something I didn't want to name. The chat scrolled furiously, usernames I didn't recognize demanding more. More blood, more pain, more screams. The poll was up. What's next for our guest? Options: rip out a fingernail, burn the skin, cut deeper. Viewer count, 349. I felt sick, my hands clammy on the keyboard. A new message popped in the chat. Guest 487, we saved you a front row seat. The video zoomed in, closer than before, the camera lingering on Mark's bound hands. One finger was bent backward, swollen and purple. Blood dripped steadily from a gash on his forearm, pooling on the floor. His breathing was ragged, each gasp shaking the sack. I tried to close the tab, but the browser wouldn't respond. The video kept playing, the chat taunting me. Pick one, guest 487. Don't be shy. We know you're watching. My webcam light flickered on again, even with the tape over it. I slapped my hand over the lens, my pulse racing. Leave me alone, I shouted, my voice cracking. The chat responded instantly. No one leaves guest 487. Vote or join him. A new text buzzed on my phone. I grabbed it, my hands shaking. 8 hours left. Special offer. Vote now, and we spare his eye. Attached was another photo, a close-up of Mark's face. The sack pulled up just enough to show one eye, bloodshot and swollen, staring into the camera. The other side of his face was a mess, skin torn and glistening with blood. I dropped the phone, my breath hitching. This wasn't a game. They were doing this, really doing this, and they wanted me to play along. I ran to the bathroom, splashing cold water on my face, trying to think. I couldn't vote. I wouldn't. But what if they hurt him worse because of me? What if they came for me next? I pictured myself in that chair, the scalpel slicing my skin, the hammer cracking my bones. My reflection in the mirror looked pale, hollow, like I was already gone. Back in my room, the stream was still playing, the audio looping Mark's muffled sobs. The poll timer ticked down, 5 minutes left. The chat was relentless, usernames egging each other on, some calling me out directly. Guest 487's gonna crack. Pick the pliers, kid. I slammed the laptop shut, but the sound kept playing in my head. Those sobs, that crack of bone. My phone buzzed again. I didn't want to look, but I had to. A video file this time, no text. I hesitated, my thumb hovering over the play button. Don't do it, I thought. But I pressed it anyway. The video was shaky, the camera moving through a dark street. I recognized the houses, the cracked sidewalk, the streetlight flickering at the corner. It was my street. The camera stopped at Mark's house, zooming in on his front door, slightly ajar. A gloved hand pushed it open, revealing a dark hallway. The video cut to black and text appeared. Vote, or we visit you next. I dropped the phone, my heart hammering. They were here. They were close. And they weren't letting me go. My room felt like a cage, the walls pressing in as the video's final frame lingered in my mind. Mark's front door, ajar, the darkness inside swallowing the gloved hand. My street, my neighbor, my fault. The phone lay on the floor where I'd dropped it, its screen glowing with that last message. Vote, or we visit you next. I couldn't breathe right, my chest tight, each inhale catching like a sob. The clock on my wall read 10:12 p.m., less than 2 hours until midnight. Less than 2 hours until... What? They came for me? Dragged me to that concrete room, tied me to that chair, made me the next face under the sack? I stumbled to my bed, my legs weak, and sank onto the mattress. The laptop was still closed, but I could almost hear the stream's audio through it. Mark's sobs, the chat's taunts, the wet sound of blood hitting the floor. I pressed my hands to my ears, trying to block it out. But it was inside me now, looping like a nightmare I couldn't wake from. I wanted to run, to tell someone, anyone. But who? My parents were out of town, visiting my aunt for the weekend. My friends would think I was messing with them. The police? They'd ask for proof, and all I had was a phone full of texts and a laptop I was too scared to open. I grabbed my phone, hands shaking, and checked the texts again, hoping I'd imagined it. The video was still there, the timestamp showing it was sent just minutes ago. I played it again, my thumb moving on its own. The shaky footage, the familiar street, the gloved hand pushing open Mark's door. It was real. Too real. I paused on the last frame, the black hallway, and noticed something I'd missed. A faint reflection in the glass of the door. A figure hooded, holding the camera. My stomach twisted. They were out there, right now, maybe still at Mark's house, maybe closer. A noise outside made me jump. A low, scraping sound like something dragging across the porch. I froze, straining to listen. The house was silent except for the hum of the fridge downstairs. Then it came again, deliberate, slow, like metal on wood. My heart pounded so hard I thought it would burst. I crept to the window, peeling back the curtain just enough to peek outside. The street was dark, the streetlight still flickering. Mark's house looked empty, no lights, no movement. But my porch, I couldn't see it from this angle. The scraping stopped, replaced by a soft thump like something heavy hitting the ground. I backed away, my breath shallow. They were here. They had to be. I grabbed a baseball bat from my closet, the one I hadn't touched since Little League. It felt flimsy in my hands, useless against whatever was out there. But it was all I had. I moved to the hallway, checking the locks again. Front door, back door, garage. Everything was secure, but it didn't feel like enough. I stood in the living room, bat raised, listening to the silence, waiting for another sound. My phone buzzed in my pocket, and I nearly screamed. I fumbled it out, the screen lighting up my face. Another text, 1 hour, 37 minutes. Vote guest 487. You're running out of time. No image this time, just those words, cold and precise. I gripped the bat tighter, my knuckles white. I wanted to reply, to tell them to leave me alone. But that would only confirm they had me, that I was scared. I was, though, terrified. Every shadow in the house looked like that hooded figure, every creak like their footsteps. I couldn't stay still. I paced, bat in one hand, phone in the other, my mind racing. I had to do something about Mark. If he was really in that stream, maybe he was still alive. Maybe I could find him, help him. But how? I didn't even know where the stream was coming from. Some basement? A warehouse? Somewhere close? The video of my street suggested they were nearby, maybe watching me right now. I glanced at the taped-over webcam on my laptop, still unplugged, and felt a chill. What if they had other ways in? What if they'd hacked my phone, my house, everything? I stopped pacing, an idea forming through the fog of panic. Mark's house. If they'd been there, maybe they'd left something behind. A clue, a sign, anything to tell me where they were taking him. It was stupid, reckless. But sitting here waiting for midnight felt worse. I grabbed a hoodie, pulled the hood up, and stuffed my phone in my pocket. The bat stayed in my hand, its weight a small comfort. I slipped out the back door, locking it behind me, and crept into the night. The air was cold, the street unnaturally quiet. The flickering streetlight cast long shadows, making every tree and mailbox look like a figure waiting to move. I stayed low, sticking to the grass to muffle my steps, and approached Mark's house. The front door was still ajar, just like in the video, a sliver of black visible through the gap. My heart hammered, but I forced myself forward, gripping the bat so hard my hands ached. I pushed the door open with the tip of the bat, wincing as it creaked. The hallway was dark, smelling of dust and something metallic. Blood? I couldn't tell. I stepped inside, my sneakers silent on the hardwood. The house was still, no signs of life, but it felt wrong, like the air itself was holding its breath. I moved deeper, checking the living room, the kitchen. Nothing. No overturned furniture, no bloodstains, no signs of a struggle. It was too clean, too normal. Then I saw it. A laptop on the kitchen table, screen glowing faintly. It wasn't Mark's. I'd never seen it before. I approached, my bat raised, and saw the stream playing on it. The same concrete room, Mark still tied to the chair, his chest heaving under the blood-soaked shirt. The chat was alive, the poll timer ticking down. 4 minutes left. The options were worse now. Gouge an eye, cut a tendon, break the jaw. Viewer count 402. I stared, my mouth dry. How was this laptop here? Why was it open to the stream? A new message popped in the chat. Guest 487, nice of you to visit. My blood froze. They knew I was here. I spun around, expecting the hooded figure to be behind me, but the kitchen was empty. The bat shook in my hands. I backed away from the laptop, my eyes darting to the shadows, the doorways. Another message. Vote now, or we bring the room to you. My phone buzzed. I didn't want to look, but I had to. A new video, loading slowly. It showed the concrete room, the camera panning to Mark's face, the sack pulled back. His left eye was swollen shut, blood streaming from a cut above it. His mouth was still taped, but he was trying to speak, his voice a muffled whimper. The camera pulled back, revealing the hooded figure holding a pair of pliers, snapping them open and closed. The video ended with text. 1 hour left. Choose his fate, guest 487. I stumbled out of the house, my vision blurring with panic. The street felt alive now, every shadow moving, every sound a threat. I ran back to my house, locking the door behind me, my breath ragged. The bat clattered to the floor as I slid down the wall, my phone still clutched in my hand. They were everywhere. They knew where I was, what I was doing. They'd been in Mark's house, left that laptop for me to find. This wasn't just a stream, it was a trap, and I was caught. I opened my phone, my fingers trembling, and typed a reply to the last text. Leave me alone. I'm not voting. I hit send before I could stop myself. The response came instantly. Wrong choice. Another video loaded, this one from my street again, but closer. The camera was pointed at my house, my front door, the window of my room. A gloved hand appeared, holding a knife, the blade catching the streetlight's flicker. I dropped the phone and grabbed the bat, my heart racing so fast I thought I'd pass out. The house was silent, but I knew they were coming. I could feel it, like a noose tightening. I checked the clock. 11:03 p.m. Less than an hour until midnight. Less than an hour until they made good on their threat. I backed into a corner, bat raised, eyes locked on the door. The scraping sound came again, louder now, right outside. And then, from somewhere in the house, a low, deliberate knock. The knock echoed through the house, slow and deliberate, like a heartbeat in the silence. My grip on the baseball bat tightened, the wood slick with sweat. I stood in the corner of my room, eyes glued to the door, waiting for another sound. The clock on my wall read 11:09 p.m., less than an hour until their deadline. My phone lay on the floor, the last video frozen on the image of that gloved hand, the knife glinting under the streetlight. They were outside. They were here. Another knock, sharper this time, from the front door downstairs. My stomach dropped. I wanted to scream, to run, but my legs were rooted to the floor. The house felt alive, every creak and groan a warning. I crept to the window, peeling back the curtain just enough to see the porch. Nothing, just shadows and the flickering streetlight. But I knew better now. They were playing with me, toying with my fear like they toyed with Mark's pain. I forced myself to move, inching down the hallway, bat raised. The knocks came again, 3 in a row, each one louder, more insistent. My phone buzzed again, vibrating against the floor where I'd left it. I ignored it, focusing on the stairs, each step creaking under my weight. The living room was dark, the curtains drawn, but a sliver of streetlight slipped through, illuminating the front door. The knob rattled, a slow, deliberate twist. Someone was testing the lock. I backed against the wall, my heart hammering so loud I was sure they could hear it. The rattling stopped, replaced by that scraping sound again, metal on wood dragging along the porch. I pictured that knife, its blade carving lines into the doorframe, marking me. My phone buzzed again, relentless. I couldn't ignore it anymore. I ran back to my room, snatching it off the floor. A new text. Open the door, guest 487. Let's make this easy. Below it, another video. My hands shook as I pressed play. The footage was grainy, but it was my front porch, filmed from just outside. The camera panned across the door, then down to the welcome mat. A gloved hand appeared, placing something small and wet on the mat. A finger severed at the knuckle, blood pooling around it. The camera lingered, zooming in on the jagged bone, the torn skin. I gagged, dropping the phone, my vision swimming. Mark. It had to be his. They were cutting him apart piece by piece and leaving the evidence at my door. The knocking started again, faster now, a demand. I gripped the bat, my mind racing. I couldn't open the door. I couldn't let them in. But what if they didn't need me to? What if they were already inside? I checked the locks again, my hands fumbling, then ran to the kitchen, grabbing a knife from the block. The bat felt useless now, too clumsy for whatever was coming. The knife was cold in my hand, its weight grounding me, but it didn't stop the shaking. My phone buzzed again. I didn't want to look, but I had to know. Another text. 45 minutes, vote or we come inside. No video this time, just those words, each one a nail in my chest. I pictured Mark, what was left of him, tied to that chair, bleeding out while the chat cheered. I pictured myself in his place, the scalpel slicing, the pliers pulling. I couldn't vote. I wouldn't choose what they did to him. But the alternative, they'd come for me, drag me to that room, make me the next show. I ran back to my room, locking the door behind me, though I knew it wouldn't help. My laptop was still unplugged, the taped-over webcam staring at me like an eye. I wanted to smash it, to destroy every trace of that stream, but what good would it do? They had my phone, my street, my life. I sank to the floor, knife in one hand, bat in the other, and tried to think. There had to be a way out. I could call the police, tell them about Mark, about the finger on my porch. But what if they didn't believe me? What if the people behind this were watching, waiting for me to make a move? A new sound broke the silence. A low hum, like static, coming from my laptop. It was unplugged, dead, but the hum grew louder, unmistakable. I crawled toward it, my heart in my throat, and flipped it open. The screen flickered to life, the stream loading without me touching anything. The concrete room appeared. Mark slumped in the chair, his body a wreck. The sack was off his face now, revealing a swollen, bloodied mess. One eye gone, just a dark, oozing socket, the other half closed, barely alive. His mouth was still taped, but the tape was loose, stained red. The chat scrolled furiously, usernames I didn't recognize cheering, demanding more. Finish him! Make it slow. Guest 487, you're up. The poll was back. Final act for our guest? Options. Slit the throat, crush the skull, let him bleed out. Viewer count. 487. My number. My username. I felt sick, my hands trembling as I stared at the screen. The hooded figure stood beside Mark, holding a knife now, its blade crusted with blood. The timer ticked down. 2 minutes left. A message in the chat. Guest 487, choose or we choose for you. The hum from the laptop grew louder, vibrating in my skull. My webcam light flickered on again, the tape peeling at the edges. I slapped my hand over it, but the screen didn't change. The camera zoomed in on Mark's face, his one remaining eye locking onto the lens, onto me. He was trying to say something, his lips moving under the tape, but no sound came through. The hooded figure raised the knife, hovering it over his throat, waiting. My phone buzzed. Another text. 30 minutes, last chance. Attached was a photo, not of Mark, but of me. My room, my face, taken from the webcam just seconds ago. I was staring at the screen, pale and terrified, the knife and bat in my hands. They were watching me right now, seeing everything. I screamed, a raw, desperate sound, and threw the laptop against the wall. The screen cracked, but the stream kept playing, Mark's eyes staring, the knife glinting. The knocking came again, louder, from the back door now. I stumbled downstairs, knife raised, my vision blurred with tears. The back door was locked, but the knob was rattling, harder this time, like someone was trying to break it down. I backed into the kitchen, my breath hitching, and saw something through the window, a shadow moving, too fast to make out. My phone buzzed again, but I didn't look. I couldn't. The rattling stopped, and for a moment, there was silence. Then the power went out. The house plunged into darkness. The hum of the fridge, the glow of the clock, everything gone. I stood frozen, knife trembling in my hand, listening to my own ragged breathing. A creak came from upstairs, slow and deliberate, like footsteps on the floorboards. They were inside. I backed into a corner, my back against the cold kitchen wall, knife raised. The footsteps moved closer, down the stairs, each one heavier, more certain. My phone buzzed again, the screen's glow cutting through the dark. I glanced at it, unable to stop myself. A new video was loading, live this time. It showed my kitchen, my corner, my face, lit by the phone's light. I was on the stream now, the chat exploding with new messages. Guest 487's turn. Make it quick. Show us the blood. I dropped the phone, the knife slipping from my hand as the footsteps reached the bottom of the stairs. A shadow appeared in the doorway, tall and hooded, the faint glint of a blade in their hand. My scream caught in my throat as they stepped forward, the floor creaking under their weight. The chat's words scrolled in my mind, relentless. Choose, or we choose for you. I lunged for the knife, my fingers closing around the handle just as the figure moved closer. The clock in my head ticked down, 11:27 p.m., less than half an hour left. I didn't know if I was fighting for Mark, for myself, or for something already lost. All I knew was the blade in my hand and the shadow coming for me. The shadow loomed in the kitchen doorway, a black silhouette against the faint moonlight seeping through the curtains. My fingers tightened around the knife, its blade trembling as I pressed myself against the wall. The hooded figure didn't move, didn't speak, just stood there, the glint of their own blade catching the dim light. My phone lay on the floor, the stream still playing, my own terrified face staring back at me from the screen, the chat erupting with glee. Guest 487's showtime. Cut him open. Make him scream. The viewer count ticked up, 512 now, all watching me, waiting for blood. The clock in my head screamed 11:32 p.m., less than 30 minutes until their deadline. My breath was shallow, my heart a frantic drumbeat. The figure took a step forward, the floor creaking under their weight, and I raised the knife, my voice barely a whisper. Stay back. It sounded pathetic, a plea more than a threat. The figure tilted their head, like they were studying me, and I saw the faint outline of a mask under the hood. No face, just a smooth, featureless surface, like something carved from bone. I glanced at the phone again, unable to stop myself. The stream had shifted, splitting the screen. One half showed me, cowering in my kitchen, the camera angle impossibly high, like it was mounted in the ceiling. The other half showed Mark, still tied to the chair, his body a broken heap, blood pooling beneath him. His one remaining eye was half open, glazed, but he was alive, his chest shuddering with weak breaths. The chat scrolled faster, usernames blending into a blur of sadistic demands. A new poll appeared. Who bleeds next? Guest 487 or Guest 1? The options were tied, the timer ticking down, 90 seconds left. The figure took another step, their knife raised, and I swung mine wildly, more to keep them at bay than to hit anything. I said, stay back. My voice cracked, but they didn't flinch. They moved closer, slow and deliberate, like a predator savoring the chase. I darted to the side, my back scraping against the counter, and grabbed the baseball bat I'd dropped earlier. The weight felt better than the knife, more solid, but my hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold it. The phone buzzed again, a new text flashing on the screen. 20 minutes. Choose, or we choose both. I didn't pick it up, couldn't take my eyes off the figure. They were close now, close enough that I could hear their breathing, slow and steady through the mask. The knife in their hand was stained, dark smears along the blade, Mark's blood or someone else's. I didn't want to know. I swung the bat, aiming for their head, but they sidestepped effortlessly, the blade flashing as they lunged. I stumbled back, crashing into the table, dishes clattering to the floor. The bat slipped from my grip, rolling out of reach, and I scrambled for the knife again, my fingers brushing the handle just as they grabbed my arm. Their grip was iron, cold through the glove, and I screamed, thrashing against them. The knife fell, skittering across the floor, and they shoved me against the wall, the impact knocking the air from my lungs. The mask was inches from my face, featureless except for two dark holes where eyes should be. I couldn't see anything behind them, just blackness, like staring into a void. Please, I gasped, my voice breaking. I didn't do anything. I didn't vote. The figure didn't respond, just tilted their head again, the knife hovering near my throat. I felt the cold edge brush my skin, not cutting, not yet, but close enough to make my pulse stutter. The phone buzzed again, insistent, and the figure paused, glancing at it. The stream was still playing, the poll timer down to 30 seconds. The votes were neck and neck. Guest 487, 256. Guest 1, 254. My name, my number, tied to me. They were voting on me now, on whether I'd bleed or Mark would. The figure let go of my arm, stepping back, and pointed at the phone with their knife, a silent command. I crawled to it, my hands shaking so badly I could barely pick it up. The screen glowed, the stream showing my kitchen, my face, the figure standing over me. The chat was a frenzy. Cut the kid! Finish the old man! Make them both bleed! I wanted to throw up, to smash the phone, but the figure's knife was still too close, the blade catching the light as they watched me. A new text appeared. 10 minutes. Vote now, or we take you both. My fingers hovered over the screen, my mind screaming. I couldn't choose. I couldn't pick who died, who suffered. But if I didn't, they'd come for me, drag me to that room, make me the next show. I pictured Mark's eye, his blood, his broken body. I pictured my own, the knife slicing, the pliers pulling. My thumb moved, almost on its own, hovering over the poll options. The figure stepped closer, their knife brushing my shoulder, a warning. I flinched, tears streaming down my face, and pressed the screen, voting for Guest 1. Mark. I chose Mark. The words "Vote Submitted" flashed, and the chat erupted with cheers, emojis, and taunts. Guest 487 picks the old man. Good choice, kid. The poll closed, Mark's fate sealed. Slit the throat. I dropped the phone, sobbing as the stream shifted fully to Mark. The hooded figure in the concrete room appeared, holding a knife identical to the one in my kitchen. They grabbed Mark's hair, yanking his head back, and the blade pressed against his throat. His one eye widened, a muffled scream tearing through the tape as blood welled up. A thin red line at first, then a flood, pouring down his chest, soaking the floor. The camera zoomed in, catching every detail, the gurgle, the twitch, the life draining from his eye. I screamed, scrambling back, but the figure in my kitchen didn't move. They just watched, their mask unreadable, as the stream played out. Mark's body went limp, the chair creaking under his weight. The chat exploded. Next! Guest 487's turn! Bring the kid! The viewer count climbed, 600 now, all hungry for more. The figure in my kitchen finally moved, stepping toward me, their knife raised. I grabbed the bat, swinging blindly, but they caught it mid-air, wrenching it from my hands like it was nothing. They pinned me to the floor, their weight crushing my chest, the knife at my throat again. I thrashed, kicking, but it was useless. The phone buzzed one last time, and I saw the screen light up nearby. A new text. Welcome to the room, Guest 487. The stream shifted again, showing a new angle. Not my kitchen anymore, but the concrete room, the same chair, the same tools. The figure dragged me to my feet, their grip unrelenting, and shoved me toward the back door. It was open now, though I'd locked it, the night air cold against my skin. I screamed for help, but the street was empty, the houses dark. They pushed me forward, toward a van parked at the curb, its back doors open, revealing nothing but blackness inside. I fought, clawing at their arm, but the knife pressed harder, drawing a thin line of blood across my neck. No! I choked, my voice raw. They shoved me into the van, the doors slamming shut, and the world went dark. The last thing I saw was my phone, left on the ground, the stream still playing, the chat chanting my name. Guest 487, Guest 487. I don't know how long I was in the van, the engine's rumble drowning out my screams. When it stopped, rough hands yanked me out, dragging me across cold concrete. The air was damp, heavy with the smell of blood and rust. They threw me into a chair, ropes biting into my wrists and ankles. A burlap sack was pulled over my head, the coarse fabric scratching my face. I heard the hum of a camera, the faint buzz of a bulb overhead. The stream was live again, and I was the star. The sack was ripped off, and I blinked against the harsh light. The concrete room was exactly as I'd seen it. Cracked walls, rusty table, tools gleaming with blood. A hooded figure stood before me, their mask identical to the one in my kitchen, holding a scalpel. The chat scrolled on a screen nearby, alive with demands. Cut him! Break him! Make it last! The viewer count was over 700 now, and a new poll blinked. What's first for guest 487? I screamed, my voice echoing off the walls, but no one came. The figure stepped closer, the scalpel glinting, and I knew there was no way out. The clock in my mind ticked past midnight. My vote had been cast, and now it was my turn to bleed. The scalpel hovered inches from my face, its edge catching the flickering light of the bare bulb swinging above. My wrists burned against the ropes, the coarse fibers cutting into my skin as I thrashed in the chair. The concrete room was a tomb, cold and damp, the air thick with the stench of blood and metal. The hooded figure stood silent, their featureless masks staring through me, the dark holes where eyes should be swallowing any hope I had left. The screen on the wall glowed with the stream, the chat a blur of sadistic glee. Slice his face! Pull his teeth! Make him beg! The viewer count climbed, 842 now, each one a faceless stranger feeding on my fear. My throat was raw from screaming, my voice reduced to a hoarse whimper. Please, I gasped. I didn't want this. I didn't choose this. But the figure didn't flinch, didn't speak. The scalpel moved closer, brushing my cheek, the cold metal sending a shiver through me. I jerked my head away, but the ropes held me tight, my body pinned like an insect under glass. The poll on the screen blinked. What's first for guest 487? Options: cut the cheek, break a finger, burn the skin. The timer ticked down, 60 seconds left. I thought of Mark, his blood pooling on this same floor, his one eye staring into nothing as the knife ended him. I'd voted for that, chosen his death to save myself, and now I was here anyway, trapped in the same chair, facing the same blade. The chat taunted me. Guest 487's gonna cry. Make it slow. Show us the blood. My stomach churned, bile rising, but I swallowed it down, my eyes locked on the scalpel. I couldn't look away, couldn't stop the countdown in my head. Midnight had passed, my time was up. The figure tilted their head, the mask catching the light, and I saw my reflection in it. Pale, sweat-drenched, eyes wide with terror. The scalpel pressed against my cheek, not cutting yet, just teasing, the pressure enough to make my skin prickle. A new message flashed in the chat. Guest 487, any last words? The words hit like a punch. They were playing with me, dragging it out, letting the viewers savor every second. I wanted to scream, to curse them, but my voice caught, a sob breaking free instead. The poll timer hit 0. Cut the cheek won with 412 votes. The figure's grip tightened, the scalpel biting into my skin. I screamed as the blade sliced, slow and deliberate, a hot line of pain tearing across my face. Blood trickled down, warm and sticky, dripping onto my shirt. The camera zoomed in, the stream capturing every detail. The red gash, my trembling lips, the tears mixing with blood. The chat exploded. More! Deeper! Next vote! I thrashed, the ropes tearing at my wrists, but there was no escape. The figure stepped back, wiping the scalpel on their glove, the blood smearing across the black fabric. They turned to the table, picking up a pair of pliers, snapping them open and closed with a metallic click. My heart stuttered, my vision blurring as I pictured Mark's broken hand, his severed finger on my porch. The screen flashed a new poll. What's next for guest 487? Options: pull a tooth, break a bone, gouge an eye. The timer started. 2 minutes. I thought of my room, my house, my life, how I'd stumbled into this nightmare just chasing a thrill. I thought of Mark, his quiet wave, his lawnmower, his blood. I thought of my parents, oblivious, miles away, never knowing what happened to me. The figure grabbed my jaw, forcing my mouth open. The pliers were cold against my lips, the metal tasting of rust and blood. I gagged, trying to pull away, but their grip was iron. The chat screamed for more. Pull it! Make him scream! The timer ticked down. 30 seconds. I closed my eyes, bracing for the pain, when a new sound cut through the room, a loud metallic clang like a door being forced open. The figure froze, the pliers still in my mouth. Voices shouted, distant but growing closer, followed by heavy footsteps. The screen flickered, the stream glitching, the chat erupting in confusion. What's happening? Cops? Keep going. The figure dropped the pliers, spinning toward the sound, their knife raised. I strained against the ropes, hope flickering despite the pain in my cheek, the blood dripping down my neck. Flashlights pierced the darkness, beams cutting through the room. Police, drop the weapon. The figure hesitated, then bolted, disappearing into the shadows as boots pounded closer. The stream cut off, the screen going black, but I could still hear the chat in my mind, their voices echoing like ghosts. Hands grabbed me, cutting the ropes, pulling the sack away. Faces blurred above me, uniforms, flashlights, voices shouting commands. I collapsed, sobbing, as they lifted me from the chair, my legs too weak to stand. They carried me out, through a maze of concrete corridors, the air growing fresher as we reached the surface. Outside, the night was cold, the street unfamiliar, lined with abandoned buildings. Police cars flashed red and blue, their sirens muted in my ringing ears. Paramedics wrapped a blanket around me, pressing gauze to my cheek, their voices soft but urgent. I couldn't speak, couldn't explain, my mind still trapped in that room, in the stream. They found Mark's body, they told me later, in a basement not far from my house. The laptop in his kitchen, the finger on my porch, the van. It was all real, orchestrated by a network they were only beginning to unravel. The stream was hosted on servers they couldn't trace, the viewers scattered across the globe, their identities hidden behind layers of encryption. The hooded figure was gone, vanished into the night, but they'd left behind the tools, the blood, the chair. I didn't go home that night. They took me to a hospital, then a safe house. My parents called back from their trip. The cut on my cheek needed stitches, leaving a jagged scar I'd carry forever. The police asked questions I couldn't fully answer, about the forum, the link, the texts. I told them what I could, my voice shaking, but it felt like confessing a crime. I'd clicked the link. I'd watched. I'd voted. Weeks passed, then months. But the nightmare didn't end. The stream was gone, the link dead, but my phone would buzz sometimes, late at night, with no number, no message, just static. My webcam light flickered once, even with the tape still over it. I'd wake up screaming, seeing that concrete room, feeling the scalpel's bite. The police said they were closing in, tracking IP addresses, chasing leads, but I didn't believe them. The chat was still out there, those 842 viewers, maybe more, waiting for the next stream, the next guest. I don't go online anymore, not like I used to. I deleted Tor, smashed my laptop, got a new phone. But it doesn't matter. I see them in every shadow, every stranger's glance. I hear them in every creak, every buzz. I walk past Mark's house sometimes, now empty, the grass overgrown. I think of his eye, his blood, my vote. I think of the figure in the mask, still out there waiting. Last night I found a note slipped under my door. No words, just a number scrawled in red, 487. I burned it, locked the doors, checked the windows. But as I lay in bed, the darkness pressing in, I heard it, a faint knock, slow and deliberate, from somewhere deep inside the house. Thank you for listening. Hope I didn't scare you too much.